always gracious with his time, even though and he's a busy man on the preparing for the Texas Longhorns. First time ever LSU's traveling to Austin. Coach, appreciate you joining the show as always. Now we can't get you on Mondays. We get you on Wednesdays. We got a lot more games to talk about. Congratulations on the win. I know you hate the 10-run rule. I know you had some guys you wanted in there, but you take it. Obviously 11-1. Ethan Fry comes off the bench, 2 homers. I want to kind of talk about the offensive surge right now. I know that you knew this team was deep offensively, but they're driving the ball at the ballpark, but it doesn't feel like they're trying to do that. It just feels like it is a result of a good approach, understanding what they're trying to do, and the balls end up leaving the ballpark. That's got to make you happy. Can you talk about the power surge, so to say, that you've seen from the offense over the last month?
Yeah, I think bottom line is baseball comes down to scoring runs on offense and preventing runs on defense. And, usually when you have a really good offensive team, you obviously have power, and that's part of it, but you don't have to sell out to get to that power.
Right.
And that's what I would say our team is. Kind of the one carrying tool is the plate discipline and the quality at bats. And, we've been exceptional with 2 strikes. So they're finding their way on base in a lot of different ways. And then, weather's getting a little warmer, balls carrying or flying a little bit better. Yep. And with some really good hitters. They're strong.
Yep.
And so I like this style of team a lot where, you're not pigeonholed into having to play one way. And, I knew we would have it. It was only just kind of a matter of time.
Coach, one of those guys who's been, you say strong, good hitter. We talked about him right before you got on the show. In the day and age of the transfer portal and being able to leave and go get immediate playing time, immediate satisfaction, the old school guy of staying there, waiting his turn, fight through some adversity and getting an opportunity, those days are kind of passing us by. Ethan Fry had every opportunity probably if he wanted to leave and go somewhere else, but he stuck it out, battled through some adversity, battled through some injuries, and he's still not playing every day, but every time you've given him an opportunity or he's had an opportunity, he's taken advantage of it. He has 4 homers on the year, 2 last night. The opposite field home run to me it just shows you how strong of a hitter he is and how dialed in he seems to be right now. Talk a little bit about Ethan Fry and how proud you are of him and how much he's developed over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought up Ethan. And I'm always eager and happy to talk about him for a number of reasons. Number one, let's start with the simple. He's a really good baseball player and a really good hitter and has a lot of tools. And, it's been an interesting career arc for him. Like he been here in the fall of 22, so the 23 season. It's one of the best offenses in college baseball history, let alone LSU history. So that was going to be really, really tough to crack as a freshman. And at most programs, he would have played right away. Then last year, we were just a little bit too right-handed, and then there was some defensive consideration. So he was kind of in and out, and he kind of got going. And I was right at the point where, look, I'm just going to play him. He's going to play. And then he got hurt legitimately, the game that I made the decision to do that, and then was out for a few weeks. And, he really a lot of physical toughness to continue to play last year and made the most of that, had surgery in the off season, has come back and has done a really good job. I'm always excited to see him come up to the plate and, keep in mind, when I pinch hit him last night, you're hitting Josh Pearson who's red hot at the same time. But I think, Ethan is the exact type of player. He's the exact type of person. He's the exact type of teammate that I want, an LSU baseball player to be. And so I'm fired up for his success. It makes us a better team. And, he deserves a lot of credit for his mental and physical toughness, and excited to see his success continue here this year.
Coach, you mentioned those 2 guys, and I'm glad you mentioned them because of where they've kind of fit into the puzzle this year and how it's kind of shaken out this year. Coming into the year where you had someone like Bear, who's a proven bat in the middle of the lineup, to take the pressure off of them. I know you knew that you needed guys to kind of step up and show that they can kind of fill in to that part of the lineup. The amount of production that you've gotten there this early, how easy, or I won't say how easy, but how much has that eased your mind in terms of, I know what they can do. I think I know what they can do. I can see their talent and their ability, but now I'm getting to see that kind of come to fruition, come to life as they do it in real games this early in the year.
Yeah, I have a lot of confidence in it. And the best way I can say it is like I kind of have an expectation we're going to score in every inning.
Yeah.
So that's like 1 through 9 through the order. And it doesn't really, a lot of times, and I'll even say this, so even in the College World Series, we're in that epic game against Wake Forest, like I was counting the outs, to us to get back to the top of the order, for Dylan and Tommy to come back up. Like we have to hold them. And I remember telling, Wes Johnson, the pitching coach at the time, I was like, 1 more 0. You get him through this inning, and we're gonna score in the next inning. And so that's on one of the best teams of all time. That I felt that way. And then now it's like sometimes I'll write on the board who's coming up in what inning. Like I'll just write like a 2 where we left off at the end of the first inning, so I can start formulating the inning in my mind on offense. And I haven't done that very much this year because it's like I have a lot of peace of mind whether we're starting at the top of the order, in the middle, or at the bottom. Like we can create offense in a number of different ways. And Jared's benefited from that, obviously, and
as he should.
As he should. And I'd be the first one to tell. I'd be the first one, to say like, he's taken full advantage of that. But I mean, appreciates the contributions of the other guys. And I like how we start off the game. I made this comparison the other day of like, so you got Derek Curiel leading off. He's like Ichiro Suzuki. Yeah. And then you got, Jared Jones coming up. He's like Mark McGuire. And then you got, Danny hitting behind him, who's got speed, power, solid hitting skills, handle the bat, plate discipline, gets hit with pitches. And then you're going to, whatever the correct matchup guy is for that day. And we've those guys have done a really good job, whether it's been Josh or Ethan that we've put there. And then you got Steven Milam with an RBI machine behind him. And then Jake Brown might be one of our most talented players right behind him. And so that's a lot to deal with. And then, how the guys have performed at the end of the order. Luis Hernandez had a really good weekend last weekend. Kate Arambidi hit 7th at a homer last night. Whether it's, Michael Braswell or Tanner Reeves in that 8-hole, both have played great. Both of them have played great for the last several weeks, whoever's been in there. And then Chris Stanfield has been amazing, in that 9-hole. So there's just no break, and it's just a lot to deal with. And I'm excited to, get into the meat of SEC play and, continue to stay in character with what we have going offensively.
Coach, before we get to the meat, conversation about the meat of SEC play going to Texas, you mentioned the Bear Jones and how he's benefiting. I think this weekend is a prime example. He was 2 of 13 this weekend, not because of people say he's struggling. It was 2 of 13, but the offense still scored a ton of runs throughout the course of the weekend. I think that's a testament to how deep the lineup is and how impressive they've been, kind of picking up the slack and protecting him in the lineup, right? But he had a quote this, I guess yesterday or today. He was talking about, he called you and he wanted to go hit off the slider machine. I was talking to Jared about this. I was like, the slider machine to me is the greatest tool you got, because it forces you to stay on the ball and it forces you to kind of not get too big on pitches. Is that a tool that you use regularly, or that he uses regularly to kind of get him back on track?
Yeah, no doubt about it. First off, it's been awesome to see his improvement through his whole career. Obviously, this will be his last year here, and we'll miss him when he's gone, the production piece. But this whole journey we've had here for 3 years of, cutting down the swing and miss, and then, the end zone contact. I mean, when he makes contact with the aluminum bat, you worry about somebody getting hurt. Yeah. But the plate discipline, pairing all these things together, I mean, he's been such a good defensive first baseman that, man, I don't even think about, anything going wrong over there. So I'm really proud of his improvement, as a player. But what we did, and this has kind of happened in the preseason, to kind of get him on track, we kind of developed a small routine, work routine. We were going out several days at like 10 o'clock in the morning and just doing a couple different things. I'm a big same side breaking ball machine guy because it forces you to see the ball. It forces you to use your eyes. It forces you to back the ball up. It forces you to stay balanced. It forces you to keep your front side in, stay connected, be behind and through the ball. So all of these things are requirements for, good approach, good swing, impact in the ball. On top of it, he sees a lot of off-speed pitches. Bat speed's never a problem. But, it was kind of along this thing, you fix your eyes, you fix your swing. To hit breaking balls, the first thing you have to do is see them. We have a saying, the mind wants to be clear, the body wants to be balanced. It forces the body to be balanced. And, he's been awesome this year. And so it's just something that was working, in the preseason that we just kind of went back to Monday. And I wasn't even that worried about it. And it's something that,
of course,
I think goes unnoticed in the weekend is he actually had the biggest hit of the entire weekend when it was 4-4. The bases were loaded with 2 outs, and he hit a line drive over the second baseman's head for 2 RBIs that, put us ahead 6-4. And on Sunday, I bunted 2 guys over, knowing it was going to be an open base, and then literally on the first pitch, he hit a ground ball to the second baseman to pick up an extra run. And even though we scored a lot, these runs in SEC series are like gold, so I still view him as productive. But then, he put the work in, and then yesterday you saw I guess what you say, the elite version of himself. And he's just got such good self-awareness and going really good right now.
Coach, now I'm not saying that this is what happened. Obviously, I'm just kind of giving what maybe I saw, and I could be completely wrong. And I honestly don't even really want you to answer that part of it. But seemingly last weekend, with a lot of young guys and a lot of guys who have not pitched in an SEC weekend on the mound for the first time, seemed like you had a lot of guys kind of play up. Going to Texas, where I'm sure that place is going to be rowdy. There's a whole bunch of history between both programs. Has that been any of a conversation to get the guys kind of back to where they started the year at in terms of how poised they were on the mound and how they attacked every hitter that they faced, every lineup that they saw, and by staying into that zone as opposed to kind of playing up a little bit?
Yeah, I think there's 2 things that I will say about our team right now. We definitely have talent. I mean, you can see that. I think we also have a lot of confidence. Yeah. I think that's a really good tool. And just because, maybe the fans don't know some of the names quite as well, because like you said, Jared, everybody but Kate Anderson made their first SEC appearance last weekend. And I think, sometimes that gets missed because you're just looking at the talent of the guys. I think really we are attacking it next game, and they expect to pitch well, they expect to play well, they expect to win. They know the demand that we have on them as far as preparation and help getting them prepared and being prepared. And, it's another test. And, there's going to be a bunch of them, along the way. And they've done a good job at this point. And, like I said last week, and even this last weekend, we won all 3 and really by a good margin when you look at the total of the three games. But you're going to get bloodied a little bit. It's how you respond to that within the game and continue to play. And I thought we did a really good job of that, and we're going to have to continue to do a good job of that.
Coach, I know you're not a proponent of the 10-run rule in the midweek. It's, I guess, a victim of your own success in a sense. And saw that you wanted shirts, I'm on it. That's something that I can do. I can promise you shirts. But whenever you see the midweek game go the way it does when you only have to use 3 arms, and then you see Texas in the midweek go to extras and they think through 6 guys, you don't consider that an advantage a little bit, or the one bright spot of a 10-run rule?
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's not going away. I think for me, and I want to explain myself in that is, we're always trying to gain things and winning, you know what I mean? And make us better. So there's just a couple guys on the periphery of this thing that if you get them a couple more at bats, if you get a guy an inning or 2 here to see what they can do, it helps their development as a player, but it helps our team. Now, to your point, Lloyd, that did work out really well because we used a couple guys multiple times last weekend. We used guys in large pitch count stints last weekend. And so to not have to go, to any one of those relievers to win the game last night, that's a big deal. You know what I mean? When you're talking about the context of the season of keeping them sharp, relative to the opponent thing, like this weekend, I don't think it would matter. Like, every pitcher would be fired up to be in there. So, but yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit, but it all just come down to who throws strikes, who, moves the ball with runners on base, who plays defense, and won't really have anything to do with how these Tuesday games went.
Well, and I think it's more you're on the side of you want to see some of the offensive guys go. The freshman Pierce said you want to see Larson steal, be able to get some at bats. Like, it's almost not fair to them, but that's kind of where you are. And it's, for them to have an opportunity to show you something else, it's like, okay, I want to see that they're still engaging with the team, but I don't think that's an issue.
Yeah, no, I don't at all. And I would compliment those guys. And like you mentioned, John Pearson, Ashton Larson, Ethan Fry. He's gotten more opportunities here lately, obviously. But those guys are doing a really good job. Mick Paul, however you want to categorize them, as those Dalton Beck, those position players that aren't in there all the time, like, they can help us win. And I just want to keep them sharp so the next time we need them to help us win, they're ready to go. But the attitude piece, one of our things for this year is together. It's tough and together. And I do believe this team is very together, and we have to keep it that way. And sometimes that's hard to do when guys aren't playing as much as they want. But high marks for these guys. And I talked a lot about getting the right guys on the bus. Not just to have the right team, but have the right program. And I feel like we did that, and we're working hard. Like today, it's not just for the guys that need very specific work and get in the weight room and get recovery. The guys that are playing, it's a little shorter. But for those guys, I mean, we're going pretty hard. Like, they're taking live ABs. Like, Ryan Costello hit one like 475 feet today. Kate Arambidi hit one off the top of the batter's eye, in live at bats. John Pearson has smoked one off the center field wall. Like, a couple pitchers, Dalton Beck, Grant Fontenot threw the ball really good. So we're continuing to develop those guys now and for what's ahead.
Coach, looking at what's ahead this weekend, y'all go to Austin, Texas. Obviously, two of the most tradition-rich programs in the country. I think it's the first time LSU's ever traveled to Austin for a weekend series. It's a top 10 matchup. Texas throws the ball, pitches really well. It's probably going to be the most challenging pitching staff that y'all face up to date this year. What other challenges do they pose to y'all going into this weekend?
Yeah, I'm here tonight, and I'll be here for a while. Kind of digging in and doing my deal, on Wednesday nights. So I'm going to get obviously more into that. They're obviously playing really well. I think they won like 15 or 16 games in a row, something like that. So they're probably playing with a lot of confidence. Very veteran lineup. Galvan, the catcher, was there last year. Bellew, the center fielder or outfielder, was there last year. Gasparino, outfielder, was there last year. Flores, shortstop, was there. Schussler, Casey Borba. So, in a lot of ways, it's the exact same players like we played last year in Houston. But I'm sure they're all better. You know what I mean? Because all of our guys that were here last year are completely different players, than they were last year. So, veteran lineup. They have pitched very well. The Friday starter's done a good job. He's got really good stuff. Hard to imagine a left-hander with that kind of stuff would even get to his fourth year of college without signing a pro contract. So he's solid, really good. The rest of their pitching, I think they know who they are. They use their arsenals well. They don't beat themselves. Pretty good defense, which usually happens when you have veteran position players. So. And they're playing at home, so really complete team, be a great challenge. And I think, we have 9 league weekends left in the SEC tournament. So you got 10 really big challenges, obviously coming up, and this just happens to be the next one.
Coach, I guess a short question about obviously the next one. Do you know anything about this ballpark and how it plays? I think recently they moved maybe the left field wall in, I believe. Do you know anything about the ballpark?
So we actually played there in 2023 on a Tuesday night after we won the Round Rock tournament.
Oh, yeah, that was there. Okay, yeah.
Dugas hit a 3-run home run. Prior to that, I think the last time I was there was 2020. We played there in Arizona right before COVID stopped the season. I love playing there. It's
Yeah.
a good place to play. The turf is obviously different dynamic to it. You know,
Fast surface or slow surface?
I think it's pretty what you'd expect. I don't remember it being. I want to say if I said anything, I would say slower.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
than faster.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think it was one like back in the Pac-12. I think it was Washington State. It was like playing on concrete. You hit the ball and it would like take off in the outfield.
Yeah, like
I was like,
Tropicana.
wait, it's not a turf field right here. But yeah, good place to play, fair place to play, but no real standout qualities.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Coach, I'm not going to keep you long. I know we're cutting into your scouting time. You know, we appreciate you coming on, hopping in here. Obviously, you got the boys playing well. We're looking forward to watching y'all play this weekend. SEC Network game Friday night, prime time. Yep.
Yeah, Ben McDonald's doing it.
Yeah, it's
That's
nice.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a good one. He's
There
gonna
you
give
go.
a former Tiger, Ben McDonald. He does a good job. Him and Lynn Rollins. I like him when he's with Lynn because he makes fun of Lynn on air, and Lynn just kind of has to wear it. Can't really say much about it.
Lynn is special.
Yeah,
in his
see,
own right.
I never get to hear any of that stuff. So
Yeah,
that,
it's pretty entertaining. But look, we're good luck this weekend. We're looking forward to watching y'all. We'll talk to you again next week. Hopefully after another series win.
sounds good. You guys have a good